Good morning, everyone. Welcome to episode 101 of the 476ers podcast. On today's episode, we're going to talk about game 2 of our series plus some other games. Stay tuned.
Yeah. Justice for the blind, just something that'll find in the rhyme that are coming from my mind.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to episode 101 of the 476ers podcast. We're going to talk a bit about last night's game 2, although I, again, missed most of yesterday's game 2 because for whatever reason, Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy decided to punch my car in the face after yesterday's rainstorm. I guess he got caught in the rain. He was unhappy about that situation. And he decided to take it out on my car. Listen, I've punched windshields out of anger when I was drunk, so I understand his anger. He left his arm behind. You know, the arm that was used to fuse Stormbringer in Infinity War. He left it upon the roof of my car. So I spent most of the first half and some of the third quarter essentially calling my insurance company, dealing with it. But I did notice a couple things that I want to point out, and then I'll jump into some of the other games. Listen, this Wizards team is not going to beat us. You know what I mean? They're just not good enough, unfortunately. Even if they had everyone healthy, Thomas Bryant, Danny Advia, all these guys, really wouldn't make much of a difference. They don't have enough, especially with Russ. I mean, Russ is struggling, you know what I mean? And then he gets injured. And that's even worse. We'll talk about that in a second. Actually, let's talk about that at the top. Let's talk about that at the top. Whoever dumped that popcorn, and they have the video of who it was, you're a fucking lame. I mean, it's just straight up, you know what I mean? I don't know if that person will ever hear this. But if he does hear it, you're a fucking lame. You know what I mean? And you should apologize to that man as soon as you get the chance. And if he decides to drop a triple-double ass whipping on you, you should take that, and you earned it. You know what I mean? Even if you fought back, he would probably, let's be clear, Russ is a professional athlete. He's 6'4". That dude would probably beat you to death. He would beat the popcorn out of you. You know what I mean? It would be like Sonic the Hedgehog losing coins as he's getting hit. You would just have popcorn just popping out of you at every hit. You know what I mean? You're a fucking lame for that. You're making everyone else look fucking bad. We had to deal with all the bullshit about Philly fans and fucking Santa Claus and all this bullshit. Meanwhile, every fucking stadium, every fucking fan base has ignorant motherfuckers. I mean, look at what Kyrie just said about Boston. Hopefully there's no racism there. Think about how crazy that is. No one ever really says that about us, but we always have the roughest fucking time letting shit go, and now here we go. You know what I mean? This fucking dumbass popcorn shit, that shit was lame. You know what I mean? I'm just going to keep it a buck. That was corny. You should go fuck yourself. They should never let you back into Wells Fargo to watch another Sixers game for the rest of your fucking life. The rest of your life. You should not be allowed. You know what I mean? Fuck your life. Don't even be a fan. But with that said, Russ is struggling. They're only going to get so far with Russ struggling. Bradley is not struggling, even though we have the Defensive Player of the Year on our roster, but I'm not here to hate on Ben. That was just, I just had to do that. I just had to do that because there's going to be a lot of Ben detractors, a lot of Ben lovers. But to be clear, Ben was dominant yesterday. You know what I mean? And listen, I wasn't really complaining about his scoring. I was complaining about the fact that he was missing free throws, but there was a lot of people complaining about his scoring. What is this? Why does it look like I have shoulder pads in this shirt? I mean, what would that, okay, I'm sorry. I wasn't really complaining about his scoring necessarily, although I do complain about his scoring in general, you know what I mean? Because, yeah, we kind of need him to score. You kind of need to be aggressive, and we kind of need Joe to be our closer, a combination of Joe and Toby to be our closer, and you being aggressive helps us. So now there's going to be people out there who are like, oh, so what are the Ben detractors going to say now? And my answer would be nothing. Thank you, Ben, for being aggressive yesterday. You know what I mean? Thank you for being aggressive. I appreciate your aggressiveness yesterday. I can appreciate that because no one can guard you. No one should be able to guard you. No point guard in the NBA should be able to guard you. That's just a fact. You know what I mean? I don't give a fuck what point guard that is. There's no point guard that should be able to guard you. Yesterday, he got out in transition. He got running. He got to the rim. He essentially decided he was going to score. Thanks, man. Yeah, you can do it. We believe in you. I think you can do it. You know what I mean? I'm not worried about you shooting. Really, there's going to be Ben detractors who are like, yeah, but he still ain't shoot a jump shot. I'm not going to say worried about him shooting. I want him to make free throws is really what I want him to do, and I wish he had better finishes. You know what I mean? But yesterday he played great. Way to go, Ben. I thought he played pretty good defense. Bradley's going to score. Again, this is what I always talk about. when we're talking about Ben, I talked about this on the last podcast, right? When you're if your best thing is to be a perimeter defender, right? If that's like your thing, you're kind of limited in really what you can do. You know what I mean? Like your value becomes a little bit limited. You know what I mean? Because on days when like a guy like Bradley, who's a professional scorer, if he's going to go off, your perimeter defense, when guys are hot, your defense may not fucking make a difference. You know what I mean? All the defense you're playing may not make a difference. You might make it a little bit harder on him, but he was still efficient as hell. And because they're running you off of screens that you're having trouble getting back into the play, or they're hunting Seth, like obviously they would, they're kind of limited in what your value actually can be. You know what I mean? If they're running brush screens with Raul Neto or fucking Ish Smith to get you out of here, or Davis Bertans to get Bradley Beal alone with somebody else, well, you're kind of, you're limited. You know what I mean? So what else are you going to do now? What else are you going to bring to the table? You know what I mean? So, well, score. Okay, cool. Thank you. Thanks, Ben. I knew you could do it. I know you can score sometimes. Score. Be aggressive. It's not really about scoring necessarily. It's really about being aggressive. You know what I mean? And anyone who acts like they don't really there are people who want him to score more points, I guess. I don't know. For me, it's not about scoring. It's about being aggressive. It's about forcing the defense into foul trouble, about forcing the defense to run out when they don't want to run out. It's about forcing the defense to make decisions, getting out in transition, and getting easy buckets. Be aggressive. That's really what I talk about. I don't care necessarily about the point total. I care that you're being aggressive. That when I watch this game, are you aggressive? You know what I mean? Because Ben at his best, like yesterday is Ben at his best. I talked about that earlier this season, the sense of urgency. You can tell what kind of game we're going to have from Ben based on his sense of urgency. And yesterday he had that urgency. That's like, yo, everyone's talking shit now? Bet, watch this. I'm going to show you. Did you show us though? Did you show? Because that's really the funny thing, right? If everyone was critical about you not scoring, did you really make us eat our words, or did you do exactly what people wanted you to do? Because it's like kind of like you just did what people were complaining about. You started scoring. Be aggressive. That's all. Be aggressive. Way to go, Ben. Joe, Joe is just, what is there to say about one of the best players in the NBA? You know what I mean? One of the two or three best players in the NBA. I mean, absolutely unstoppable. There is nothing this Wizards team can do. They could spawn a literal wizard. They could bring Gandalf the Grey out on the bridge. You shall not pass, and Joe will just fucking Euro step past him on that bridge, and then we will see Gandalf the White next game, and it still won't matter. Return of the King. Joe is if Joel was in the Return of the King on the other side, we'd have a fourth movie on what happened after the bad guys won. You know what I mean? So that's it. There's just nothing. You can get literal wizards to stop it. You can change your name back to the Bullets and try literal bullets to stop Joel Embiid. That's not going to work either. You could bring George Mikan back, and he will not be able to stop him. You can bring Wes Unseld back. There is no Wizards great that will do anything to Joel Embiid. Let's be clear. It's just nothing you can do. You know what I mean? There is nothing you're going to do with him, especially if he's going to go 3 for 4 from the three-point line. It's even worse. You know what I mean? And I like this version of Joe where it's kind of like the balance yesterday was great. It kind of felt like Joe saw Ben had it early in the first quarter and decided to start almost deferring a little bit and picking spots. And I like this balance. Toby with 19, Joe with 22, Ben with 22. I like that balance. I think that's a fucking great balance. You know what I mean? I think that's great balance. It's your three best players. They all scored in double figures, got them out of there early. You know what I mean? We don't have to rely on Danny to score a ton. He can go back to his position. He scored 5 points yesterday. Maybe next game he scores 10 points, whatever. Nothing big. Seth scored 9 points, played okay. Got injured. Hopefully he's okay. I mean, we do as much as Seth at times, Steph's value is less about what his stat line is and more about just the gravity he commands while he's on a basketball court. You know what I mean? It's really about that. He's not Steph, where Steph has more gravity, and the stat line also shows that this is one of the however many greatest players ever, one of the 5 best players in the NBA. Seth is more about just gravity. Are you going to spread this court? How much are you going to spread it? That's what he said to her. So we kind of do need Seth, but if he is injured, this is the time to be injured and recover. Toby also hurt his ankle, but he bounced right back. Hopefully both of these guys are healthy. This is the time to recover. I mean, I don't even if these two sat out and that meant we lost game 3, I would punt game 3. I'm not worried about the Wizards. You know what I mean? I'm really just not worried about the Wizards. So Matisse's defense, Matisse's defense is all time. Let's be clear. I mean, this is all time. He scored 5 points, but again, this is that type of, his defense really is this type of situation where it's like, how many points is he actually creating for our team? You know what I mean? With this defense. And it, to me, is more apparent than Ben's defense even in a lot of ways, because, Ben's defense is great. Don't get me wrong, but Matisse causes so many fucking turnovers, so many lost possessions for the other team. I mean, he has runouts, a steal. He has 4 steals and 5 blocks yesterday. He had a steal and a block on the same possession again. I mean, I would love to know, like, that's one of those second spectrum stats or something that somebody's going to have to let us know. Who leads the NBA in having a block and a steal in the same exact possession? And when I say a block and a steal, I mean they blocked the shot, the other team got it back, and then they stole the ball immediately. It's got to be Matisse. You know what I mean? Because there's 2 obvious ones. One yesterday and the one a few weeks ago where he just comes in out of nowhere and he gets the block, attempts to run out, then sprints back into the play and gets the steal. I mean, his defense is game changing. You know what I mean? It really, really is fucking game changing, because it's not just, all right, we're going to bring you in to lock this person down, right? It's not like Tony Allen, who's a great defender. It's not like Draymond's defense would do like elite rim protection at his size and being able to stifle people in the post. It's that he causes turnovers. You know what I mean? He causes so many turnovers. He causes so much fucking havoc on defense. I mean, it really, like, I said he was going to have to play in the playoffs. So we were going to need Matisse to play in the playoffs, and I agree with that. His scoring for sure can be down. 2 for 5 is fine. You know what I mean? That I think is fine for him. But that defense is way too important to just lose. You know what I mean? It's way too important to just lose, because when all of a sudden you bring in your bench unit, if the other team decides to get Q and keep their best scorer in the game, we have arguably our best defender in the game at that point. You know what I mean? You can say whatever you want. I mean, I really would venture the argument that Matisse is our best defender. And it's just that he lacks the skill set to be on the court more often. You know what I mean? And that's why Ben has more opportunity to be our best defender, and therefore he can be our best perimeter defender. But Matisse, I think, generally is our best defender. And if Matisse could shoot 40% from 3, somewhere 38 to 40% from 3, he's a solid passer. He doesn't really make bad decisions with the ball. You know what I mean? But if he could shoot at any consistent rate, he will be our best defender. If he could play 25 minutes a game, he would be our best defender. You know what I mean? He's our best defender. It just is what it is. And just watching this output, you know what I mean, is crazy at times, because the thing is, Ben playing with the starters, our starters are our best defenders. Not all of them. Ben is obviously one of our best defenders. Danny is arguably our best perimeter defender, arguably. Joel is a great rim protector. Well, he's a good rim protector, but he's a really great great perimeter defender when he gets switched on screens. It's not actually a win for the offense when he gets switched on screens. Toby has really turned himself into a very good perimeter defender. So Ben is having the benefit of playing with a lot of great defenders on our starting 5. Whereas Matisse will come in with Shake and Furkan and Tyrese and Dwight, and it's just good defenders, and Dwight can be good defenders, although he can be a little bit boneheaded, obviously, but it is a good rim protector. But Matisse just makes up for every one of these guys. Shake really isn't a good defender. Tyrese has moments where he's a good defender. He has moments where he falls asleep. Furkan, I said he works really hard on defense, and he's done a great job forcing turnovers when he's in the game. But as a perimeter defender, he isn't really a good perimeter defender. He kind of cheats, because if he's on an island too long, it's not going to go well for us. You know what I mean? Speaking of which, who got dropped yesterday? George Hill got dropped off, right? Poor George Hill. He got dropped off at the cleaners. He got dropped off. Listen, Bradley dropped off everybody. I think it was Bradley who dropped him off. Bradley dropped off everybody. He dropped off Ben at one point. You know what I mean? Bradley, credit to Bradley. I mean, Bradley is nice. You know what I mean? I still, like, for me, the jury is a little bit out on Bradley's value. I think he's incredible, an incredible scorer. But, if you're saying, does Bradley make other players better, I don't know the answer to that question right now. You know what I mean? I just don't know the answer to that question right now. And, it's hard to know the answer. You know what I mean? Like, this same team almost missed the playoffs last year, obviously without John Wall or Russ. But Russ getting there, is why everyone felt like they would be in the playoffs. You know what I mean? It's like, well, Russ is there now. You got Bradley, as opposed to, well, now Bradley has a nice second player to get him there. Everyone kind of was feeding off Russ because Russ has that thing about him. You know what I mean? As much as you say whatever you want about Russ, but Russ has that thing, that fire that we kind of wish other players had, or kind of wish Joe had that fire that Russ has at times. You know what I mean? Like that fire that's like, I'm not going to lose this fucking game. And Joe does have that sometimes, maybe just expressed a little bit differently. And also the thing about Russ and that fire is also friendly fire at times. And, you know, we've talked about that a million times. He will burn your own fucking house down. But, you know, credit to Russ, yeah, credit to them. But so the jury is out on whether Bradley makes players better. And this was really when you know, I had talked to somebody earlier this year about Ben Trey's, and, you know, they were suggesting Bradley Beal. And I kind of, you know, as critical as I can be about Ben, as critical as I am about Ben, I told him I don't know if a Ben Bradley Beal trade really puts us over the top. I don't know. You know what I mean? Because Ben is a great playmaker. There's, you know, like I said, man, nuance. Let's fucking discover nuance, right? Ben gets a lot of assists on the I'm not going to finish at the rim ever, so I'm just going to jump out and pass out to somebody else. He gets a lot of assists on that, but he does get a lot of assists, and he does play make a lot. He does create a lot of open threes outside of those plays. He does create open threes. You know what I mean? There is a nuance there where there's value in his playmaking, and then there's value in the defense. You lose one of your better defenders by trading for Bradley Beal. You know what I mean? And Bradley can have moments where he's a good defender, and then he had moments where he's not. You know what I mean? And maybe it's because he handles a ton of the offense, but because I don't know completely if Bradley makes players better. And I do think Ben, with the right cast, can make people around him better. You know, he does have, you know, he will find ways to get open and easy shots for his players. It's just whether again, so much of it is depending, like I've mentioned earlier in the season, Ben's value is completely beholden to his aggressiveness. And the more aggressive he is, the more better he looks. The less aggressive he is, the value plummets. Like, there are players who don't look aggressive, are kind of sleepwalking, and finish for 20, 25 points, right? And obviously points are not the only way to judge somebody. But the thing is, when Ben is sleepwalking, it's so obvious because he doesn't offer any spacing, doesn't make free throws. So when he's not aggressive, it shows in the rest of the offense. So him being at his most aggressive, constantly redlining, is Ben at his best. You know what I mean? That's the Ben that is like a top 15 guy in the NBA. When Ben is sleepwalking, that's the Ben who is a top 40 guy in the NBA. And it's really that wild of a, you know what I mean? Like that wild of a swing where a guy like maybe Paul George is like a top 10 guy in the NBA when he's aggressive, and when he's not really being aggressive, he's like a top 18 guy or some shit like that. Ben's swing that pendulum swing is wild. You know what I mean? So having Ben be aggressive is important. So when he's aggressive, he does make people better. He makes the game easier for everybody as long as he's being aggressive. You know what I mean? That's always going to be the thing that I'm like yelling about. Are you being aggressive? Because there's going to be times later on in the playoffs when we play whoever we play next. I mean, the Hawks don't really play a ton of defense, but as these series go on and we go into and we play better and better defenders, Ben is going to have to get easy buckets. You know what I mean? And I'm going to talk about that constantly. Get in transition. Get the fuck out in transition. Run. Let these guys catch up to you. You know what I mean? The ball doesn't have to go into a half court and go through Joe every time. And that's not always the optimal situation because you don't spread the floor. Your defender becomes almost a sixth fucking defender. You know what I mean? If we have five, it's like they have six. Obviously, the more obvious one is a 5-on-4, but just whatever. I want to be different. So get out in transition. Go force the issue. Let Toby run with you. Let Danny run with you. Let Seth run with you, and let Joe trail. Good things happen with Joe trails. Let's be real. We've seen Joe hit trail 3-pointers from the top of the key. Yesterday, obviously, Joe has that crazy layup. You know what I mean? As the trailer in that situation, let guys trail you, man, and get the fuck out and run. And then when we need a half-court bucket, go into the half-court. But off a miss, get out and run. Get out and run. Make it easy on you. Make it easy on us. That's always going to be the argument. You know what I mean? And now, as far as Bradley, like I said, I just don't know how much Bradley makes other players better. I don't know. You know what I mean? I can't say to the affirmative or I can't deny it. I just don't know. You know what I mean? And I like Bradley. I do like him. He's as smooth of a scorer as they come. You know what I mean? But a lot of the scoring he does, you know, as you see games like yesterday, he operates a ton in the mid-range. You know what I mean? Operates a ton in the mid-range. Someone who shot 28 shots, only shoot 6 free throws, and maybe you can look at I don't really think there was anything wrong with the official. Let me see, how many free throws did they shoot? They shot 30 free throws. How many free throws did we shoot? We shot 37 free throws. How many foul calls? There were 21 fouls called. Yeah, 21-21. You know what I mean? So I didn't really feel like the officiating was bad. And Bradley, to his credit, man, he had a couple finishes yesterday through contact that were incredible. I mean, he's just a hell of a scorer. You know what I mean? But does he make players better? That's the question that people will be asking about him forever. And I just, like, Bradley on paper is better than Ben, sure. But there's those other things, those little things that everyone else wants to talk about when they're trying to defend Ben when he had a bad game. Now I'll defend him when he plays well, and him in general. Yeah, there is a ton of little things that he does that Bradley doesn't do that we would lose, and they can't be quantified with numbers. You know what I mean? There's nuance, man. There's nuance. It exists. Nuance exists. I swear to you, everything doesn't have to be a fucking Twitter argument. Nuance does exist. You know what I mean? And we can talk about shit without just having a wild pendulum swing on our opinions to decide things. You know what I mean? There's nuance here. And we could just be that way. So, Ben, way to go. I talked about the lame fan. Fuck him. Let's go jump through some of the NBA game again, because I didn't watch the game totally because I was dealing with Groot and his anger issues. So I'll just take a quick spin here. Yesterday, the Knicks won. I said before the series started, give me this series, right? Give me Knicks Hawks. Whatever the NBA does, give us Knicks Hawks, and it has lived up to the hype. I mean, all of these games have been both the games have been really close down the stretch. Just feeling like things could just go either way. You know what I mean? A bounce here or a bounce there, and all of a sudden we have a 2-0 series. You know what I mean? Or on either side. You know, arguably on either side. You know, and Trey morphing into a villain with his bad haircut. I mean, he looks like he looks like who's the scientist who fights Mega Man? I can't remember his name right now, with the bald head and the spiky hair in the back. He looks like him. You know what I mean? He looks like him out here, giving Mega Man all types of problems on NES, SNES. You know what I mean? Just out here. Two villains in the NBA, Trey Young and Dylan Brooks, with the worst hair. Their hair is just villainous. You know what I mean? Just villainous hair. Their hairs have been villains in their personal lives. You know what I mean? They're out here displaying that villainous nature to everyone else. You know what I mean? Listen, I always get nervous. Like, even talking about, like, our fan, obviously, he's not, fuck him, who threw the popcorn asshole. Even like the Knicks chanting "fuck Trey Young" is like a little bit uncomfortable to me. I'll be honest with you. You know, maybe I'm too soft. Whatever, like we're all like, oh man, it's great to have fans back, but it's an angry mob pretty much just saying fuck you to one person because he's good at basketball, because he's playing basketball well, you know. And I don't know, maybe I'm too new school, maybe I'm too politically correct, or whatever the fucking buzzword is that people think is an insult, that really being politically correct is just being is also being considerate of other people's feelings. Oh no, you political correct bitch, you're so considerate of other people. You're the worst. You're so soft and you care about how other people feel. Okay. So even that makes me a little bit uncomfortable, but you know, Trey seems to really kind of like feed off of it or whatever. And good for him. You know, good for him. You know, he's playing incredible. Like yesterday they tweeted, oh, excuse me. Yeah, is that my first yawn on a podcast? I can't believe I just did that. It's not my first yawn on a podcast. I've yawned with Fred on a podcast, and that's because Fred is boring. Puts me to sleep. I'm joking. Shout out to Fred. That somebody tweeted or put out this: Trey is one of, you know, a handful of players to debut in the playoffs with two 30-point games back to back. Trey, playoff basketball is supposed to be harder. You know what I mean? And you're seeing some players struggle. You're seeing Julius Randle struggling big time in the playoffs right now. You know what I mean? His numbers don't look good in the first two games. You know what I mean? His first two games ever in the playoffs. Right? Yeah, this is his first time in the playoffs, I'm pretty sure. His playoff numbers aren't looking good. You know what I mean? But Trey is out here in the playoffs. I mean, he operates with a ton of space, and he has the quickness and size to kind of get wherever he wants to get, even though he, obviously can kind of be a liability on defense. Offensively, kind of works to his advantage, and he knows how to use that size. You know what I mean? He knows how to use that size to his advantage. So I got to give him credit. I'm not the biggest Trey fan. I've mentioned that a million times before. But the Hawks have been playing great. He is their best player. He is their best offensive player without a doubt. And probably the best player overall. You know what I mean? Probably the best player overall. And he's playing great. You know what I mean? Like he almost does have that Steph feel to him a little bit. You know what I mean? That is essentially the offense runs through him. Everything runs through him, and you're terrified of him going off. You know what I mean? Bogdanovich is playing great for them. John Collins hasn't really been playing well necessarily. And, they had a good John Collins game. I think he fouled out yesterday. Things could be different. They haven't had a good John Collins game. So, this Hawks team is playing really good. They have a lot of offensive guys, a lot of smart offensive guys. They're playing great. Derrick Rose is having a throwback. Getting his chance in the playoffs. You know what I mean? Again, good for him. He's playing really good over the last two games. And yesterday you kind of felt that at certain points that was kind of like, we're not going to lose this fucking game. We're not going to lose this game. Not after Trey said all he said, and they asked Derrick Rose about it. And I respect Derrick's answer, honestly, to that question about Trey Young saying what he said, which is like, yeah, this is basketball. You're supposed to do that. He's supposed to do that. Our fans are supposed to yell at him like that. And he is supposed to respond exactly that way. He's 100% right. Yeah, you're screaming, fuck Trey Young. And Trey Young said it's gotten real fucking quiet in here. Man, that's the most thugged out response to that shit I've ever seen in my life. So good for Trey. Good for Trey. You know what I mean? I'm going to give him props here. Jazz Grizzlies, this has been a wild series, man. John Morant, how about another one? This dude, man, gets it. Another one who gets it, man. That's really what you're looking for. When you're looking at superstars, like guys who are possible superstars, do they get it? You know what I mean? Do they get it? Are they going to raise their game when the lights go on? And sometimes, we've had influxes of players where that wasn't the case, where there was like that stretch where it was like DeMar DeRozan, does he get it? Well, in the playoffs, he kind of drops off. Or you have like a Danny Granger where there was a time where he was good, and then you got playoff P, Paul George, and you have AD, and you have so you have these guys who are, superstars, but then when the playoffs come and the lights get on, are they really at their best? For a long time, people thought Chris Paul was it, but that's not really the truth. If you actually look at Chris Paul's numbers, they're pretty much the same. Playoffs, and we've also seen people remember too much about Clippers Chris Paul, the 2 turnovers against the Thunder, and don't remember enough about New Orleans Chris Paul when he was literally when he pushed the Lakers to 6 games completely by himself, when he pushed the Spurs to 6 games, I think, completely by himself, essentially. But anyways, that's the point. It's not about Chris Paul. So we've seen players that get up in the playoffs and then, get up in the regular season and the playoffs is whatever. We've seen the other side too. We've seen Jamal Murray, right? Jamal Murray, where it's like regular season Jamal is a good player. And then all of a sudden last year in the bubble, he's scoring 50 here, just doing crazy shit. You know what I mean? Donovan Mitchell's another one who in the playoffs gets up. Now we got John Morant, a lot of young guys who in the playoffs are getting up. Ja, Trey, Luka, obviously. I mean, Luka in the playoffs right now is that man is molten. That man is molten. That man right now, the playoff star, and he is Thor with Stormbringer and the hammer. The hammer. You know what I mean? So it feels great to watch young guys, like the influx of the NBA, these young guys who are getting into the playoffs and are not fucking scared, are embracing it. John Morant is John Morant tried to absolutely demolish Rudy yesterday on that dunk. And Rudy, that block was an incredible block because Ja was coming with bad intentions. I mean, he was intending on a murder. A murder. Murder was the case that they gave Ja. That's what they were doing. Yeah, that's what he was coming for. And credit to Dylan Brooks played great yesterday too. I got to give it to Dylan. I don't like Dylan, but I got to give him credit. He's playing fucking great. He's playing for man. That team is going to be good, man. I really do like that Grizzlies team. You always have love for a team And last year I think, I kind of knew, and this year I'm like, yeah, man, like this Grizzlies team is going to be my other team. You know what I mean? Like obviously Sixers fan first and foremost always, but a team that I'm going to like to watch, I'm going to really be invested in how they go is going to be this Grizzlies team. You can't not like it. I mean, they still have this grit and grind spirit to them that existed years ago that I loved then, and they still have that same spirit now. These dudes are fucking dogs. I love it. You know what I mean? So they're going to lose to the Jazz, but it's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be fun to watch. Listen, whoever was going to play the Jazz was probably going to lose to them. You know what I mean? And while they stole game one, I don't think that's going to be indicative of the series, but who knows? Maybe they prove me wrong. You know what I mean? If there's any team, and I had said this, remember, I said this during the play-in, that the Grizzlies have the highest upside of the teams in there. You know what I mean? The Warriors have an upside because as long as you have Steph on the court, you have an upside. The problem is it's only Steph. You know what I mean? And that's it. The Grizzlies have a few guys. Valanciunas is playing great. Dillon Brooks is taking a step. Ja is taking a step. Jaren Jackson is back, and he's a good player. He's just rounding back into form. This Grizzlies team, I could see that they have the upside to upset somebody without a question. So we'll see. What was the games on 25th? Oh, yeah, Nets. I mean, the Nets are whatever. Yeah, the super teams are real fucking good for the NBA, by the way. As I'm watching this pathetic fucking game, it's just the Celtics throwing rocks into an ocean trying to build a dam. You know what I mean? The Celtics are literally standing in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. And from a rock yard, they're throwing little pebbles into the ocean trying to build a dam, like the worst, shittiest beavers on the planet, trying to build a dam in the middle of the biggest ocean ever. I mean, it's a fucking joke. Super teams are not good for the NBA. You'll never, ever convince me that this is good. Having these three great guys on one team is good. And God forbid Brooklyn loses for whatever reason, people are going to let it go. And I'm telling you, it's still not fucking good. Having this much centralized talent isn't good. You're telling me it wouldn't be better if, let's say, let's just say Kyrie, leave James Harden, KD, the two best players on that team, and give Kyrie to, I don't know, who the fuck could we give Kyrie to here? No, I'm not going to give him to the Wizards, no. Oh, give him to the Knicks. You tell me Kyrie on the Knicks wouldn't be better? Like, that wouldn't make things more interesting? If you were watching Kyrie versus Trey Young right now, that wouldn't make shit more interesting? Yeah, he's not the same defensive player, obviously, but it wouldn't make things more interesting. Or if you put Kyrie on just on the Bulls, replace Kobe White with Kyrie, you tell me that wouldn't be more interesting to have more talent spread out? Come on, it's dumb, stupid. Yeah, the Suns, the Suns really, by all accounts, should not win this series. You know what I mean? Could they? Yeah, they could. But if Chris Paul isn't healthy, they said he had a stinger. I've had a million stingers in my life, and I don't ever remember a stinger that affected me that badly. You know what I mean? That 2 days later, I'm still not shit. You know what I mean? Like, usually I have a stinger. Usually I can play through it. Or the next day, I'm pretty much good to go, and 2 days later, I'm fine. Now, I haven't had a stinger at my advanced age. Chris Paul's 35. I'm 35. I haven't had a stinger recently. The last time I had a stinger was probably 10 years ago, so maybe that is making a difference. Maybe if I got a stinger now, I'd feel it a lot longer. But I just, it's going to be tough for the Suns to win the series. You know what I mean? This Lakers team is just too good defensively. They have a ton of talent, and it's whether they can figure the talent out. AD played great. Yesterday, it's like people did forget that AD wasn't really a great playoff player for a couple years, and he kind of got that off his chest last year. But it's a little bit easier when you have the best player, arguably the best player in the history of the NBA, on your team. It's a lot easier to get that monkey off your back. But he played great yesterday. He shot a ton. I think he shot 21 free throws. 2 days ago, I'm sorry, shot 21 free throws, something like that. This Suns team doesn't have enough if they don't have Chris Paul. You know what I mean? They just don't. Listen, last year they weren't in the playoffs. This year they're in the playoffs. You know what I mean? And, not to discount that the bubble happened without Chris Paul, because that was a big thing, them going 8-0. They would have been better this year without a question. They wouldn't have been this good without Chris Paul. So, if they don't have Chris Paul, that's going to kind of suck for them. Clippers, this Clippers team, miserable. It's disgusting. You know what I mean? They have all the talking and all the barking and none of the bites. None of the biting. They're a fucking, they are a bull mastiff with no teeth. they appear big and they appear dominant and they appear strong, and they can do damage to you, even though they don't have teeth. If you're a Chihuahua, they'll slap you around a little bit. But you're going against now, what's like a German Shepherd, who is smaller than this Bull Mastiff, or a Rottweiler, or like a Pit Bull, who was smaller than the Bull Mastiff but has teeth, and you don't have teeth. Well, you're in trouble then. You're going to be in fucking trouble. You know what I mean? Like, there is really no excuse. And again, because a million people have pointed this out, the Clippers punted the last 2 games of the series so they could avoid playing the Lakers. That's what everyone is assuming. And you kind of opted to play the Mavericks thinking this would be an easier matchup for you. And you're getting outcoached, and you're getting absolutely dismantled. Outcoached and dismantled. Ty Lue didn't play Terrence Mann in game 1, even though Terrence Mann was a big part of their team all year. And then yesterday he finally plays. He's going to play going forward. Too much Reggie Jackson, Rondo, whatever. I mean, this team is a fucking mess. You know what I mean? Reggie just, no. Reggie, it makes sense that his name is Reggie because, you get like regular weed. They call that Reggie, right? Well, you're Reggie Jackson. Yeah, you're regular. You're regular, all right. You're Reggie. They can't defend Luka. There is no one on the planet who can defend Luka right now. Just nobody on the planet. There is no one. He would give 30 to Jesus Christ himself. You know how Jesus let Lazarus out of the tomb? Luka would have Euro stepped out of that tomb without the help of Jesus. I mean, this man, not to be too sacrilegious, this man is dominant right now. I mean, this is what Luka's done in this playoffs, real quick, not to have a complete Luka-gasm. What he's done over the first 2 games, I mean, this is all-time great level shit. What we're talking about, what you're seeing when you see Luka, don't let your mind deceive your eyes, what you're seeing when you're watching him. This is all-time great shit. This is the type of shit that if Luka's going to be like this the rest of his career, in 10 years, we'll be talking about where does Luka fit next to Larry and Magic, and where does he fit in this conversation with Kareem and all these guys if Luka's going to be playing like this. Because playoff basketball is supposed to be more difficult. He's supposed to be playing 2 of the best perimeter defenders in the league, and he is...
Justice for the blind, just something that'll find in the rhymes that are coming from my mind. Used to come